David Menzies for Rebel News here in Markham, Ontario, and I have what might just be the final chapter in the saga of this beautiful hockey rink owned by Martin Ross. As you know, going back to last month, folks, we brought you the story of Martin Ross and how, well, the city has gone to war with him about this hockey rink. They don't like it here. Some of the nosy Parker neighbors don't like it here. The kids love it, of course. Hockey is our national winter sport. And you know, the thing about hockey, as this story went into overtime, it can go either way, can't it? I think we were all hoping for a 1972 moment, weren't we? When Paul Henderson, with less than a minute to go, put the puck past Vladislav Tretiak. Canada wins the Summit Series against the USSR. But instead, we got 1998, the shootout in Nagano, Japan. Brendan Shanahan has the game on his stick. But Dominic Hasek stops him. Czech Republic defeats Canada, goes on to win the gold medal. And I think this is an example of the latter. Martin was in court last Friday to get a Hail Mary injunction. I thought his lawyer made a tremendous case for it. The judge disagreed. The rink is coming down. Now, Martin, just so people understand the backstory of your hockey rink, the original point of contention, because I did speak to a neighbor, and he said two things. You chopped down some trees, and the reason why he moved to the neighborhood was the green canopy, and there was the noise factor. Your response, sir?
All of my neighbors, or a lot of my neighbors, I shouldn't say all of them, but a lot of my neighbors, they have or have had an unhealthy obsession with my backyard, where they thought my backyard is their personal green space or their personal park. You know, they all said they loved looking at my trees. Did any of them ever come and offer to help rake them up in the fall or anything like that? And you know, he sat there and he said, oh, he cut down beautiful 100-year-old trees. Now, that's not true. So the trees that I took down 12 trees. I replanted 130. I counted the other day. 130 I replanted. But the trees I took down were what's called Manitoba maple, which doesn't even qualify as a tree. It's a weed. If you Google it, it says it's a weed. He said they were 100-year-old trees. Well, Manitoba maples only live 30 to 50 years, and most of those were pretty much near the end of their life cycle. But nonetheless, I paid my fines on them. I replanted 150 plus trees, and trees that are not invasive trees such as the Manitoba maples. Right. I planted good, healthy trees that are good for the environment, unlike the Manitoba maples. He made it sound like I was cutting down big, beautiful 100-year-old oak trees.
We're going to break a little news about this sad saga. You told me originally weeks ago that you didn't want me to report it, and I respected your wishes, but there's no sense now that the battle is over. Doug Ford, the Premier of Ontario, got in touch with you, and he said he was going to reach out to Markham Mayor Frank Scarpetti, and apparently, well, there's a reason why a lot of people, myself included, call Premier Ford Triple F flip-flop Ford. Looks like he didn't go to bat for you. What was the purpose of him saying he would do so in the first place?
Well, you know what? He was a very good man about it. When he called me, he was very polite, and he said he did feel very bad for me, and perhaps he did speak to him. I don't know. But I mean, I'm not there with him knowing what he's done, and maybe he did speak to him, and maybe they just blew him off or whatever and said, you know, like, sorry, we don't care what you have to say or what you think. We got our court order, and we're going to, you know, move forward with it. Maybe he did try and help, and maybe his hands were tied. I don't know how all that political wrangling really works.
You know, Martin, we didn't address the other complaint of your former neighbor. When I spoke to him, he mentioned the noise. Personally, the sound of vulcanized rubber, ricocheting off a wooden board and children laughter, that is just music to my ears. But can you address the noise complaint? You had told me previously you weren't going into the wee hours of the morning playing hockey, were you?
No, I wasn't. As I mentioned to you once before, we were out here late on New Year's Eve once, maybe till 11 on New Year's Eve. But other than that, you know, we'd be in at 8:30, 9:30 at the latest. And if there was noise complaints, I've never got fined for a noise complaint for the rink. I never got fined for the lighting of the rink. Bylaws never come by for noise complaint on the rink or for a lighting complaint on the rink. All the lighting hits directly here. And you know what? As you said, the noise of kids laughing and skating and whatnot is a beautiful noise.
Let's talk about the costs. What I find spectacular, you told me that the rink costs $300,000, and the city originally said, if you don't do it, we'll demolish it. It's going to be $500,000. They later revised it to $352,000. How in the world did they come up with that? Because the estimate you've received is south of $100,000 to take this out.
It's south of 75,000.
Yes.
I think the estimate I received that I gave you guys was 59, if I believe.
I believe I saw that one.
And
Yes.
and I found some lower ones since then.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. And you know, like that cost of the rink is the rink, the pad, and some landscaping and whatnot. So, you know, people might think that's astronomical, but a pool nowadays is $200,000.
Yes.
So, you know, a rink is a little bit more extensive than a pool. But, yeah,
But again, the question, how does the demolition of a rink cost more than the construction?
well, I think everybody knows where the dividing of that money goes. It's no secret, but once again, there's no transparency, no accountability. I have a gentleman here in Unionville who wants to see, you know, who's called the city several times to ask them, you know, what have the legal costs been to the taxpayers fighting this, right? So they don't answer it. You know, my kids, they're pretty sad about it right now. You know, my kids are not. They loved it out here, right? And they were looking forward to it again this winter. They're getting a little bit older. You know, my daughter really wants to increase her training, and you know, they love kind of being left on their own to do their own thing. So I know for sure my two are really upset about it. You know, they're a little bit older. They kind of understand a little bit about how the world works, but some of the younger kids that have been out here, they're perplexed by it all, right? Well, I think you can always have hope. I'll have hope. I mean, unfortunately, I think it's probably no hope in Bob Hope, and Bob Hope's been gone for quite some time. You know, you can always have hope that the city will come to their senses and say, "Hey, let's revisit this a little bit." I don't think that's going to happen, but at least I hope that people out there might learn something from this. I hope things at the municipal level this will create change at the municipal level and make transparency and accountability and not let things. It doesn't have to be about a hockey rink. It can be about whatever. I just hope it helps people learn from this out there, and I hope it makes municipalities better.
Well, Martin, we did our best to go to bat for you.
I appreciate it. You know, and if you edit this part, I'm going to be mad at you right now. You keep doing what you're doing.
Okay.
There's people out there, right? And you are about the people, and I know everybody out there that I talk to, they love you and they love what you do. So don't stop what you're doing, please.
We really appreciate that. And folks, there you go. H is for hockey and H is for heartbreak. And this is a heartbreaking story.
And hate.
Yeah, and H is for hate, and indeed, and it is shameful. I'm looking at you, Mayor Scarpetti. I'm looking at you, Councilman McAlpine. You are denying children the right to play our official national winter sport. What kind of killjoys are you? It's despicable, and so is the double standard in this city. And what have we learned from this, folks? If you ever have the opportunity to buy a heritage property, like I said earlier, don't walk away from that deal. Run away from that deal, because your co-owner is the city, and clearly, in the case of Martin Ross, the city calls the shots. Despicable. Hey folks, maybe this rink is a lost cause, but always hope abounds. The city can do the right thing. I'm not hopeful of it. In any event, please go to our petition to save this beautiful rink. It's savetherink.ca. That's savetherink.ca. Once we amass a lot of signatures on that petition, we're going to hand deliver it to Markham City Council. Not that they'll care, but who knows? Maybe they'll care a little more come election time. In the court of public opinion, they are on the wrong side of history. Let your voices be heard. SaveTheRink.ca.